Exposed. At my son's wedding, I discovered an incredible truth that transformed our lives forever. Mark stood nervously in the packed hall, the smell of fresh meatloaf and baked beans swirling in the air. Families mingled, laughter echoing around the room, vibrant and alive. He adjusted his beige suit, feeling the weight of the fabric a little more than usual. The suit was a symbol of his hard work, his dedication, but it felt suffocating that day. As Jake prepared to marry the love of his life, excitement shimmered, but an undercurrent of anxiety tugged at Mark's heart. Isn't he the lucky father? He heard Aunt Susan's overly loud laughter. It filled the room, yet the words stung like a slap. Mark caught Uncle Bill eyeing the wedding decorations, a far cry from lavish. The whispers taunted him, each comment echoing reminders of their lower-middle-class struggles. The day was supposed to be about Jake, yet the tension folded over the joy, a blanket that wrapped around his chest. Moments later, he pushed through the crowd, each smile becoming a mask for his tight-lipped fears. Today, more than ever, he saw the shadow of inadequacy hanging over him. The thought that Jake might see him as a failure gnawed at him. Instead of pride, he felt disappointment. The festivities carried on, smiles plastered as light danced through the room. Mark shuffled to the back, needing a moment to breathe. He found a photo album perched precariously on an old table. With curious fingers, he flipped through the pages until a letter slipped out, a handwritten note from his late father-in-law. The smooth cursive felt like an accusatory finger pointing at him, a reminder of his own missed opportunities. As he read the letter aloud to himself, anger boiled within him. Honor and hard work, it stated, define success beyond wealth. Each word he read sliced deeper. Memories rolled in a life dictated by discontent. He closed his eyes, letting frustration wash over him. He was doing his best. Yet, the words felt like judgment. Suddenly, he heard a commotion. The music shifted to a slow dance, couples taking the floor, and Jake and his bride shined. An urge to share his feelings surged in him, but was crushed by the tidal wave of expectations that had built between them. "Dad!" Jake's voice cut through Mark's thoughts as he approached, cake in hand. In an instant, they were locked in a heated confrontation. Each voice elevated, filled with years of unspoken resentment. Mark's heart thudded painfully as Jake expressed his beliefs about love and sacrifice, while Mark's world seemed to crumble, confronted by his rigid views of success. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The dance floor spun with bright lights, but the air between father and son thickened, palpable with their confrontation. It was in that moment of clutching cake that Mark realized these burdens he carried could be shared, even lifted, if he allowed love to bridge the chasm. Could he redefine success in their fractured relationship? But just as they were beginning to understand one another, a shadow loomed larger. A family secret, long buried, was about to surface. What could it mean for Mark and Jake? Would it deepen their bonds or tear them apart? The echoes of joy and tension wrapped tightly around the room, leaving them at the edge of an uncovering that could alter everything they thought they knew. The loud laughter of guests faded into a distant hum, leaving only the heavy thud of Mark's heart in his ears. He stared at Jake, searching his son's face, trying to read the turmoil swirling within. The brimming cake plate in Jake's grasp trembled slightly, a reflection of the emotional earthquake shaking their family that day. "Dad, you need to listen," Jake pleaded, voice cracking with raw urgency. "I'm not just saying this to hurt you. I want you to understand." Mark shook his head, thoughts like marbles rolling around in his mind, clattering chaotically. He could feel tension twisting again in his gut, a knot of shame and frustration. "Listen to what, Jake? You think I don't want what's best for you? I thought being there for you meant playing it safe. Saving money and building a future. Jake interjected, stepping closer, his face flushed. But you know what? I learned it means being honest about who I am. It means not being afraid to follow my heart. For a moment, Mark felt the weight of his son's words push him backward. He thought of all the times he had buried his own passions under layers of responsibility, convinced it was what a father was supposed to do. Wasn't that a part of being a good parent? But now, as Jake stood before him, brimming with something more than just surface-level anger, Mark felt a flicker of doubt. Had he truly sacrificed everything for this moment simply to see his son's vision of success crumble? As the music floated into a slower tempo, couples continued to glide across the floor. Mark could see Jake and his bride share a soft smile, light reflecting off their rings. It should have filled his heart with pride, but instead, it only ignited another flare of frustration. No matter how much he wanted to cheer for them, the memory of Aunt Susan's laughter hung thick in the air. "Dad," Jake's voice softened, now filled with aching sincerity. "What if we could start fresh from here? I don't want to fight about this. Let us just talk." Mark's breath caught. He's not sure where this is headed, but he felt fear edging in. What else was hidden in the folds of their family story? He searched Jake's eyes, frowning. Could he muster the courage to take that leap and confront their past? "I know there are things you haven't shared with me," Jake continued quietly, eyes earnest and pleading. "I need to know what is holding you back. Please, can we just be honest?" For a moment, tension wrapped around them like the bright ribbons adorning the tables, threatening to pull them apart. Mark's chest tightened. Memories pressed on him, heavy and unyielding. The letters, the struggles, his father-in-law's expectations. It felt like a scale trying to balance two opposing sides of their relationship. Then suddenly, without thinking, Mark blurted out, "I never wanted you to think I was a failure, Jake. But there is something about our family, something I buried. Your grandfather's choices, they weren't just hard work. They drove a wedge between us." As those words slipped from his lips, he felt a weight lift slightly, a lingering shame maybe starting to lift. Would Jake still accept him if the truth turned their worlds upside down? The atmosphere transitioned in that instant, the tension electrifying. Jake's eyes widened, drawing Mark deeper into the unknown shadows of their family legacy. "What do you mean?" Jake asked cautiously, taking a half step back, absorbing the gravity of the revelation. And as Mark stared back at him, he knew there was no going back. Change was coming, and with it, the chance for healing or heartbreak rested squarely in their hands. Where would this new revelation lead them? Would the truth forge a new path, or collapse the fragile trust they had been holding on to? Mark took a deep breath, feeling the weight of Jake's gaze pull him deeper into the moment. He could see the flicker of uncertainty in his son's eyes, as if the ground beneath them was shifting. This was uncharted territory, not just for Jake, but for him too. There was a fire inside him, a yearning to explain, to unshackle the secrets that had tied their family into knots. "Jake, it's not just about hard work," Mark began, his voice steadier than he felt. "Your grandfather, he had a way of pushing people. If you didn't live up to his expectations, he'd make you feel small. It wasn't just about providing, it was about power and control." Jake's brow furrowed, confusion mixing with realization. "But I thought that was just how things were. You never told me because I thought I was protecting you." Mark's heart raced, and he could feel the truth spilling out of him like a river breaking through a dam. "I was scared you'd end up in the same toxic cycle. I thought the best way to keep you safe was to follow the rules, to avoid all that pain." The music in the background faded even more as guests began to notice the gravity of their conversation. Mark could feel the weight of their stares, yet he pressed on. This was bigger than any wedding reception, it was about family, about honesty. "Dad, you're not a failure," Jake said, his voice hushed but firm. "You don't have to be like him. You've done so much for me." "No, you don't get it," Mark replied, desperation creeping in. "I followed his path, and I thought I could save you from it. But instead, I smothered you, smothered your dreams. I made my choices, and they haunted me. The fear, it paralyzed me. I see now that fear isn't love. Mark's eyes shifted to the floor, a mix of shame and hope swirling inside him. He had hoped this moment would never come. Why hadn't he shown Jake how to pursue his heart? Instead, he trapped him in a web of misplaced reassurance and expectations. Then why didn't you say anything before? Jake's voice trembled, barely above the background noise, a questioning echo of hurt. Why wait until now? On my wedding day? Mark cringed at the reality of it all. Because I didn't want to ruin this day for you. I thought if I kept quiet, I could hold it all together. But now I see, it's ripping us apart anyway. A silence enveloped them, a heavy pause where tears threatened to spill. In that silence, Mark sensed a shift in Jake's demeanor. The hurt was still there, but now mingled with something new, a fragile understanding, perhaps even empathy. Dad, we can't go forward until we face this, Jake finally said. You can't keep carrying this burden alone. We need to figure it out, together. The words hung in the air like a lifeline, a bridge extending toward a future that could be rebuilt. Mark caught his breath, feeling a flicker of hope ignite within him. But just as the tension began to ease, Aunt Susan's familiar laughter echoed through the hall, snapping them back to the present. Mark's heart sank. All that talk of honesty felt an ocean away from the chaotic reality of family dynamics around them. What would he need to reveal next? And yet, perhaps this was only the beginning. As their eyes locked, Mark knew there were layers still beneath the surface, more truths, even darker shadows of their past yet to be uncovered. Could he muster the strength to navigate those deep waters? And would Jake be willing to dive in alongside him? Mark's heart raced, caught between the tension of the moment and the lightness of the atmosphere surrounding them. The laughter from Aunt Susan felt like a distant memory, a reminder of the world that continued to whir around them. He took another deep breath, glancing at the twinkling fairy lights above, clinging to the hope that maybe this truly could be a turning point. Jake, he started, and for the first time, he felt a weight lift from his chest. There's more to this than just me and my mistakes. I need to tell you about your mother. Jake's eyes widened, and Mark could see the rush of emotions flit across his son's face: curiosity, concern, confusion. It was a heavy topic, one Mark had struggled to navigate for years. Your mother, she was a dreamer. She had a vision for her life, for our lives together. But... Mark hesitated, the memories flooding back like a storm. But your grandfather didn't just push me. He pushed her too. He never saw us as capable of stepping outside his shadow. He held his power tightly. What do you mean? Jake leaned closer, his intensity anchored in a mixture of disbelief and eagerness. I always thought she was happy being home with us. She was, Mark revealed, but that happiness came at a cost. There were parts of herself she buried, bits of hope and aspirations that she sacrificed. It hurt her, and it hurt us. Mark's voice wavered as he recalled the nights when shadows of doubt clouded their home, hovering just outside the warmth. Jake noticed his father's distress, and for a moment, both men were caught in a web of shared grief, a longing for the past, tinged with regret. I don't understand, Jake whispered, his heart racing along with his father's. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Why wait until now? Because I wanted to protect you, Mark replied, swirling emotions churning inside him. Just like with my father. I thought shielding you from the truth was a way to keep you safe, but it only created a barrier between us. Silence fell again, yet this time, it felt different, an invitation to explore uncharted territory together. What if? Jake's voice broke through the quiet. What if we both had the chance to explore those parts of her that she left behind? Maybe it could help us understand her, even forgive her. Mark's heart brimmed with a mixture of hope and fear. You mean dive into our family's past? The good and the bad? Do you think we could handle it? Jake nodded, a fierce determination flickering in his eyes. We can't keep pretending everything is perfect. If we want to break the cycle, we need to uncover the truth. Mark felt a swell of pride for the man Jake was becoming. He realized this was not just a conversation about family secrets, but a chance to create a new legacy. One where love prevailed over fear, where dreams were embraced, not stifled. Just then, the music shifted, signaling the end of a set and the beginning of the next. Couples swayed, lifting the air with laughter and joy. But within that celebration, Mark and Jake stood grounded, ready to face the shadows that had haunted their family for so long. As they exchanged glances filled with renewed determination, Mark couldn't shake a feeling nagging at his heart. What awaited them in that journey forward? And would they find the strength to face the unvarnished truth together? The night lingered, beautiful and chaotic, while pieces of their story beckoned to be revealed. Would they step into the depth of the unknown, or would they simply fade back into the joyful noise around them? Mark felt the weight of expectation hanging in the air, a tightrope stretched between them and the truth he had kept hidden for too long. The laughter and music drifted into the background, allowing the moment to settle in the space between them. Where do we even start? Jake asked, his voice a mixture of eagerness and apprehension. Mark took a moment to gather his thoughts, looking around at the happy couples swaying under the fairy lights. It was beautiful and chaotic, like the emotions swirling inside him. I guess we start with her dreams, he said softly. She used to talk about them, you know. How she wanted to be a writer, travel the world, experience life beyond the walls of our home. Jake's eyes sparkled with curiosity. Why didn't you ever tell me that? I didn't want you to think less of her, Mark replied, guilt tugging at his heart. I thought if I painted a perfect picture of her for you, it would somehow shield you from the pain of reality. But really, I was just scared of facing it myself. Maybe this is what we need, Jake murmured, his newfound enthusiasm lighting up his face. Let us find out what she wrote. Even if it's just a scrap of paper. Maybe we can feel her dreams through her words. The idea took root in Mark's mind, blossoming with the promise of discovery. That could be a way to honor her memory, he said, hope beginning to bloom within him. But it won't be easy. There might be things we uncover that are hard to accept. Anything is better than pretending, Jake insisted, determination firm in his voice. I want to know the truth, Dad. I want to know her. Mark nodded slowly, feeling a swell of pride mixed with a dash of fear. They stepped back from the edge, the music around them fading like a distant echo as they focused on the journey that lay ahead. The shadows of the past seemed vast and dark, but now they had a plan, a way to illuminate their family's narrative. With a few careful steps, they made their way toward a quieter corner of the venue, the laughter and music becoming distant but pleasant. For the first time in years, Mark could feel a sliver of connection between him and Jake, a bridge built on shared intentions and vulnerability. Where do you think we can find her writing? Jake asked, his eyes narrowing with focus. Maybe it's in the attic or old boxes in the basement. Mark chuckled, surprised at the idea. It might even be in the small desk she used to keep in the living room. I don't think I've opened it since she passed. Then what are we waiting for? Jake grinned, excitement coursing through him. Let us go. They maneuvered through the crowd, the festive energy pulsing around them as they stepped outside. The cool night air greeted them, invigorating Mark's spirit. He could almost see the ghosts of the past waiting for him in the dim light of the house, echoing their history in a soft whisper. I can't believe we're doing this, Jake said as they approached the familiar door. What if we find something incredible? What if we find something that changes everything? Mark asked, vulnerability stitching a thread of uncertainty through his heart. But wouldn't that be the point? Jake replied, a spark of mischief in his eyes. Mark hesitated at the door. The possibilities felt vast, like galaxies spiraling into unknown worlds. Just as he was about to turn the knob, he paused, a weight settling in his gut. Were they ready to uncover the layers of truth that might shift their understanding of family and love forever? He swallowed hard. Let us discover our family, Jake together. As they stepped into the house, the faint scent of dusty pages drifted around them, and Mark's breath caught. He was struck by the reality of what they were about to uncover. Could they handle the truth buried within the whispers of the past? With each step deeper into the house, the weight of uncertainty pressed upon them like a heavy fog. What would they unearth about their mother, and would it fracture the bond they were building? The house felt different in the dark, shadows loomed like old memories creeping up on him. Mark flicked on the light, the dull glow revealing boxes piled high in stacks, a museum of their lives. Dust motes danced through the air, illuminated like stars in the void. Where do we even start? Jake whispered, peering around as if trying to see beyond the physical clutter of the room. Mark's heart raced as he thought about the little desk, the one place that could hold all their mother's unfiltered thoughts, her dreams unshared. Let us check her desk first, he said, gesturing toward its small, worn frame. As they approached, Mark felt his palms go clammy. Memories flooded back, the smell of her coffee brewing, the soft click of keys as she typed late into the night, and her laughter spilling from that corner of their lives. His heart ached at the thought of reliving those moments without her. Jake knelt in front of the desk, his fingers brushing the brass handle, hesitating just like Mark had at the front door. Are you sure we're ready for this? He asked, glancing up. Yes, but it's going to be emotional, Mark admitted. We might find things we wish we hadn't. Jake took a deep breath and opened the drawer. The creak of the wood echoed through the room, a sound that seemed to amplify the thumping of Mark's heart. Inside, they found a jumble of papers, notebooks, and old pens, held together with a fragile elastic band. Jake pulled out a notebook, its cover frayed at the edges and filled with brown, worn pages. This looks promising, Jake said, his voice barely above a murmur. Mark felt a mix of anxiety and excitement bubbling within him. What would the pages reveal? Who had she been beyond the roles of wife and mother? Jake flipped through a few pages, his eyes widening. Dad, look at this. He pointed to fading words scrawled across the page, her writing, familiar yet infused with raw emotion. It's like she is speaking directly to us. Mark leaned in, reading snippets between Jake's excited words. There were passages about dreams of adventure, her yearning for distant shores, her doubts, and some heart-wrenching confessions that he'd never known. I'm scared I'll let them down, one entry read. What if I'm not enough? What if my words fade into silence? His chest tightened. The realization hit him that she had her own fears, her own battle struggles hidden beneath the guise of the strong woman he remembered. Dad, this is amazing, Jake whispered, awe and wonder capturing every curve of his features. Look at how alive she felt. She wanted to inspire people, to see the world. A sudden wave of pride and sorrow crashed over Mark. He could hear his mother's laughter again, and it broke through the silence of the room. This is her legacy, Jake. We're just beginning to see who she really was. Their eyes met, and in that moment, something shifted between them. Their connection deepened as they embraced the truth of their shared loss. They were exploring, unearthing pieces of her that had been confined within pages for so long. Taking a breath, Mark pushed the notebook closer. Let us keep reading. We owe it to her to discover all she wished to say. As they turned the pages, each word came alive. But there was one entry, a loose sheet tucked between pages, that stood out, its ink still bold, one that read, I've kept my biggest secret, and it ties us all together in ways I can't yet explain. Mark stopped, his heart pounding. What could this mean? He murmured, glancing at Jake, whose eyes were wide with intrigue. Whatever it is, it sounds huge, Jake said, leaning closer. Mark's pulse quickened. Are we ready to find out? He took a deep breath, sensing the weight of the past shift, knowing they were on the precipice of something monumental. As they prepared to delve further, the air crackled with possibilities. What unforeseen truths lay buried in those words? Something told Mark that their journey had just begun. Mark's fingers hovered over the loose sheet, the ink seeming to pulse under the flickering light. The question loomed heavy between them, a tangible energy crackling in the air. He looked at Jake, whose face reflected a mix of excitement and apprehension. What if we're not ready for this? Jake whispered, concern shadowing his youthful features. Mark forced himself to take another deep breath, trying to swallow back the lump forming in his throat. Sometimes we need to face the uncomfortable to find clarity, he replied, his voice steadier than he felt. Let us read it. With trembling hands, he picked up the sheet. The words felt weighty, almost sacred, as if revealing a lifetime's worth of secrets. The handwriting was fluid, each letter rising like a wave, ready to crash down with revelations. The truth is, he read aloud, I've kept my biggest secret, and it ties us all together in ways I can't yet explain. A truth about your grandparents that I've never shared because I was scared of how it might change everything. His voice wavered, and he could sense Jake tense beside him. What do you think she means? Jake asked, brows furrowing in confusion. Mark shook his head, brow nodded in thought. I don't know, but it sounds big. She must have believed if we knew, our perception of her and maybe of our family would shift. He felt the air in the room thicken, a blend of curiosity and dread hanging between them. Jake leaned closer, captivated. Keep going, he urged. We have to know. Mark's heart raced as he continued reading. Every choice I've made was based on guiding you two, on creating a family that thrived on honesty, yet I hid parts of my own history like a puzzle with missing pieces. My own mother's journey influenced me more than I ever acknowledged. Mark paused again. He couldn't help but feel awash in both admiration and grief as he thought of the sacrifices his mother had made to give them a life, while also feeling the eroding edge of trust. What could she be hiding? He pondered aloud. The silence stretched, filled only by the soft creak of the house settling around them. Jake broke the stillness. She never spoke about her family much. I thought it was just personal. He shrugged, but Mark could see the cocked eyebrow of suspicion forming. Personal or painful? Mark mused, trapped between the safety of the past and the unknown of the future. She made it clear we are a family built on strength. But what about her strength? What if this secret challenges everything we've known? Jake's eyes sparkled with a mix of fear and fascination. Do you think it could change our view of Grandma and Grandpa? Mark ran a hand through his hair, realizing they were standing at the edge of a familial chasm. It might, but that doesn't have to be a bad thing. Sometimes, understanding our parents helps heal our wounds. Taking a steadying breath, Mark lifted the page again, scanning it. She wrote that she was reaching out to help us, to prepare us for something bigger. Jake met Mark's gaze, and in that moment, they both understood the perilous journey ahead. Then we have to find out what it is. Mark nodded, determination swirling within him. We'll have to piece together every story, reach out to relatives, see what they know. Yeah, it feels like we're solving a mystery, Jake grinned, excitement lighting up his face. But Mark's smile faded. A mystery with potential for pain. His apprehension thickened the air, and he wondered whether uncovering the hidden truths would deepen their connection or fracture it. Whatever it takes, Jake said resolutely. We're in this together. As they stood before the desk, the old notebook still resting on the surface, Mark felt both dread and anticipation entwine within him. This was no longer just about understanding their mother. It was about unraveling not just her past, but the past of their family. Mark took the loose sheet, folding it gently. Before we go on, let us regroup and gather our thoughts. Okay, Jake replied, though his voice hinted at the intrigue still bubbling beneath the surface, and as they prepared to leave the room, a mysterious shuffling sound echoed from the hallway, sending shivers down their spines. Did you hear that? Jake whispered, eyes wide. Yeah, Mark responded, heart thumping in his chest. What was that? As they shared a glance, the curiosity morphed into fear. They were about to discover secrets deeper than they ever expected. What other surprises awaited them in the shadows of the family home? Mark held his breath, the air charged with an unsettling mix of wonder and dread. He glanced toward the door, the sound echoing again, a faint rustle as if someone or something was moving just beyond their sight. Jake's eyes darted around the room, searching for what lay in the darkness. Maybe it's just the wind, Mark suggested, though he didn't believe it. Shadows danced along the walls, flickering in the dim light like figures from a memory long forgotten. I don't think so, Jake replied, voice shaky. There was an edge of thrill in his tone, as if fear was woven with a strange excitement. What if it's a sign? Like, something wants us to discover more. Or it's just an old house settling, Mark said, his voice a whisper against the mounting tension. Jake squinted at the door, his youthful bravado wanting to lead him into the unknown. I say we check it out, he urged. His pulse raced, emboldened by the thrill that came with secrets and mysteries. Together, then. Mark took a step forward, clenching his fists at his sides as he moved toward the source of the sound. The hallway was darker than the room behind them, shadows thickening like a fog. With each step, Mark could feel a shiver crawl up his spine. It felt like crossing a threshold between the mundane and the unknown, the familiar and the overwhelming. As they crept forward, the creaks of the wooden floorboards underfoot seemed to echo through the air, amplifying their trepidation. Mark paused just before the corner, the faintest glimpse of light pooling from a door slightly ajar caught his gaze. Look, he whispered, pointing. Jake's eyes widened, both fear and delight sparkling in his expression. Do you think we should? Jake asked, his voice barely audible, trembling with uncertainty. We have to, Mark replied, steeling himself. Whatever it is, we can handle it. With a nod, they approached the doorway. Mark pushed it open cautiously, the hinges protesting with a low groan. Inside, the room was cluttered with boxes and old furniture covered in sheets, but something stood out. It was a small wooden chest in the corner, half hidden beneath a pale blue drape. What is that? Jake leaned closer, curiosity overcoming his fear. I don't know. Mark stepped inside, feeling compelled to uncover what lay hidden. As he reached for the chest, he could feel the slickness of dust on its surface, its edges worn but pristine. Open it. Jake urged, practically buzzing with excitement. Mark took a breath and lifted the lid. Inside was a jumble of photographs, letters, and trinkets, each one seeming to whisper stories from the past. He grabbed a handful, pulling them out gently. While Jake breathed, leaning in to inspect them closer, Mark was drawn to one faded photo on top. It was a picture of a woman he didn't recognize, smiling wide, cradling a child. The resemblance struck him like lightning, a jolt of recognition that sent shudders through his body. This looks like Mom, he said, disbelief flooding his words. Jake's face lit up. No way. It really does. Mark flipped the photo over, heart racing, searching for answers. Written in delicate, flowing script was a date. A date that coincided with revelations his mother had hinted at but never confirmed. What if this is connected to what Grandma wrote? Jake suggested, his voice now tinged with urgency. What if it holds the key to her secret? Mark's mind raced, connections weaving together like threads in a tapestry. We need to look closer. There's more here than we can see. Just as they began to pull more items out, the door creaked loudly again, and they froze. A shadow flickered in the hallway. Who's there? Mark called out, chest tightening like a drum. Silence fell thick around them. Something was watching, something they hadn't anticipated. Their hands trembled as they clutched the treasures of the past tightly, the weight of family secrets pressing down. What lay waiting for them in the shadows, and would they have the courage to confront it? The silence stretched on, heavy and suffocating. Mark could feel the chill in the air wrap tightly around him, making every hair on his body stand on edge. He exchanged a glance with Jake, a silent communication passing between them, a mix of fear, excitement, and an unspoken agreement to face whatever was lurking in the dark. Maybe it's just our imagination, Jake said, but his voice lacked conviction. Mark shook his head, heart thumping wildly like a drum in his chest. No more running. We came here for answers, he whispered fiercely, a surprising wave of resolve washing over him. With fists clenched and breath held, Mark stepped out of the room, Jake close behind. They advanced, the flickering light from the old windows casting eerie silhouettes that seemed to shift and twist. Each creak of the floorboard sounded like a warning bell, echoing their every step. "Mark?" Jake's voice was barely above a mumble, anxiety creeping in as they neared the end of the hallway. "What if it's something bad?" "We'll figure it out." Together, Mark reassured him, pushing through the door with a surge of determination. The hallway opened up into a larger room that seemed untouched by time. Dust motes floated lazily in the slant of light from a grimy window. An old rocking chair swayed slightly, as if someone had just left it, the motion tangible, unsettling that a strange intuition gripped Mark. This was more than just an old house, it was a monument to lives once lived, secrets baked into the walls. His eyes darted around, searching for the source of the unsettling energy that prickled his skin. Suddenly, a book lying on a table caught his attention. It was leather-bound, aged and cracked, yet opened as if waiting for them. He stepped closer, his fingers brushing the surface, feeling a connection, a pull as if the book wanted to tell its story. "What is it?" Jake stepped up beside him, glancing nervously around the dim room. "It looks like a journal." Mark flipped through the pages, his heart racing as he scanned the faded ink, written hurriedly like the words were trying to escape. Then he froze, his breath hitching as he recognized a familiar, flowing script. His grandmother's memories of her gentle smile flooded back, her tales of family history, all weaving in and out of his childhood. He began to read aloud, heart pounding, the words spilling out like a secret that had waited far too long to be revealed. "She wrote about our family," he said slowly. "About a hidden part of our past, something she wanted us to discover." Absorbed in the pages, he felt electric. Here was history they had deemed lost, now teasing them with its presence. Jake leaned in closer, his eyes wide with wonder. "What does it say? What's hidden?" Mark thumbed through the pages, unease creeping back as he stumbled upon a passage discussing a forbidden love from years past, a union that had rippled through their lineage and branched out like roots of an ancient tree. The next few lines sent chills down his spine. Suddenly, the door slammed shut, making them both jump. The breath caught in Mark's throat as darkness flooded in around them, the air growing thick with a tension that seemed to whisper warnings. "Mark!" Jake shouted, panic creeping into his voice. "What's happening?" "Stay close," Mark commanded, voice firm but shaking. They turned, the journal suddenly heavy in his hands, shadows merging and sketches twisting along the wall as if alive. The whispers grew louder, echoing around them, blurring the lines of past and present. A lantern on a shelf flickered to life, casting eerie light on faces both familiar and strange, pictures from the journal spilling forth like memories they long buried. "Who are you?" Mark called out into the growing darkness, voice echoing eerily. But in that moment, they realized there were stories woven into the walls, truths they were destined to confront, a truth that could shatter their understanding of who they were. The room spun with memories begging to be unraveled, the specter of their ancestors urging them to uncover the light hidden in the shadows. "What happens if we see it?" Jake whispered, fear tugging at his words. Mark took a deep breath, steadying himself as he looked into the darkness. "I don't know. But we have to find out." As the shadows pulsed around them, anticipation hung thick in the air. What revelations awaited them, and would they have the bravery to face the untold stories that could shape their future? They stood together in the darkness, the weight of generations pressing down like a thick veil. Mark's heart raced as he faced the unknown, feeling Jake's hand steady at his shoulder, grounding him in the surge of uncertainty. "Let us uncover these truths," he urged, voice steady, despite the fear creeping in. Together. The shadows felt alive, swirling around them, hinting at secrets yet untold. The flickering lantern cast a warm glow, illuminating their chosen path into history. Unlike before, it wasn't a burden weighing them down, it was an adventure, one that could break the chains of the past. Mark found himself drawn back to the journal, those familiar, flowing words beckoning like a siren's call. "This," he began, holding it up like a treasure, "is our key to understanding." With a deep breath, he turned the pages, searching for the forbidden love hinted at earlier. When he finally found it, the words tumbled out, raw and vibrant. A union born from hope, yet shackled by family expectations, he read. Images of ancestors faded into view around them, faces woven with sorrow and love, longing for recognition. As if their love could never truly be accepted. There was a collective gasp that hung in the air, the tension thickening as Mark and Jake absorbed the gravity of their family's legacy. These stories, Jake said slowly, are swimming in pain and passion. He looked closely at the dancing shadows, trying to comprehend what the ancestors were trying to relay. That a sudden clarity washed over Mark. We're not alone in this. We are part of something bigger. The realization struck him: this pain, this longing for acceptance had seeped through generations, shaping them into who they were today. It unraveled something deep within him, a thread connecting his heart to those he never knew. Maybe that's what Mom was guarding, Jake whispered, his voice shooting through the stillness. These stories could help us break the cycle. Mark nodded, feeling a flicker of hope ignite. They weren't just discovering old tales, they were rewriting their family narrative, reshaping their future. Mark turned the page, revealing more letters penned with trembling hands, affection wrapped in fear. If love was enough to break through these barriers, he murmured. There it was, solid and ever-present, the theme of love transcending expectations. Maybe it's time we embraced those strong emotions. Just then, a gentle breeze swirled through the room, setting the lantern flickering wildly. An image shimmered before them: a young woman cradling a child, her eyes alight with hope. Mark squinted, recognizing her. It was his grandmother. She's guiding us, he said, wonder taking hold. She wants us to see the love she had all along. Jake's face lit up, filled with urgency. We have to finish reading. We can't stop now. With renewed energy, they dove back into the journal. Each word felt like a heartbeat, echoing their family's struggles and dreams. They uncovered tales of bravery, heartache, and ultimately, acceptance. As they wrapped themselves in these stories, the walls around them felt less daunting, the shadows dissipating like mist in the morning sun. With every sentence, Mark felt the burdens he had carried begin to lift, releasing years of unvoiced fears. Together, Mark said softly, emotion thick in his voice. We're rewriting this story. He looked at Jake, the awe in his son's eyes reflecting tears of joy. And it starts with honesty. I can finally see it, Jake responded, excitement bubbling over. Our family isn't just made up of failures or expectations. It's built on love, unconditional love. They both laughed, a sound bright against the backdrop of their tears. The shadows around them shimmered as if cheering on their revelation. Mark grabbed Jake's hand, squeezing tightly as if solidifying a promise. Let us honor their love by being true to ourselves, by pursuing our dreams. Together, they stepped towards the door, holding onto the journal like a lifeline. They would navigate this journey side by side, ready to face whatever awaited them in the light. In that moment, the fears and doubts that once clouded their hearts transformed into a celebration of who they truly were. As they crossed the threshold back into the vibrant energy of the hall, the laughter and music enveloped them like a warm embrace. Mark looked at Jake, understanding flooding through him. This was their family, not defined by preconceived notions, but by the stories of love that lived on through them. We can do this, Jake, Mark said, feeling a full heart swell with possibilities. We're stronger together. Jake grinned, radiating hope. With that, Mark turned to the revelers, who beamed back, unaware of the newfound connection forged in the darkness of their past, the legacy blooming bright with each step forward. The laughter felt different now, a melody they could all share, echoing truths that had been waiting to emerge. As they prepared to live boldly, Mark knew one thing for certain: their family was on a path of love that could light up any shadow. And as he moved towards a celebratory dance floor, laughter bubbling up within him, he wanted everyone to know it too. Now, dear friends, this is the moment to join us. If you don't want to miss the journey we're embarking on, you need to subscribe now. Leave a like to feed this ever-growing community, and comment below your thoughts and feelings about this miraculous transformation. share this video with at least 5 friends who need to join us on this path of discovery. Don't wait not even one more second. Your support means the world. Together, let us keep the stories alive.